Well, welcome back to Harley Davidson Machine Shop. I've got some exciting news. I've gained access to the DD channel, and I'll link it from this video so you can look at that. There's 500 and some videos there. And I think I got a couple hundred here. But there's a lot of machinist information on that channel where I was restoring some of the equipment I have here. But on this channel, I'm going to keep this going, and I'm going to focus on Harley Davidson motorcycles here. And I think that will be kind of a better thing than to mix stuff up. And I really appreciate the donations that have been sent to me. They help greatly. And I got a link to PayPal I'm putting on here, and I hope that works. So be sure to check out the DD channel. It's been almost a year since I've been able to get on there. My computer was hacked, and it wasn't the channel, it was my own computer, and kind of chasing that down a little bit. We had another computer that still had the information on it. I was able to get back on there. Well, anyway, on this channel, we'll progress with Harley Davidson motors, and we'll call them 2006 and earlier, because I was working on some twin cams, and I actually have one here. I have a twin cam night train. So we can dink around with that a little bit later, but we can continue on the K model, and I found that there's quite a bit of interest on it, and people appreciate the dowel pin situation. That is also very usable on custom big twin engines, and I'm also quite versed in big twins. But I'll continue with the K model, and the K model and Sportster series are considerably harder to do than the big twin engines, which are considerably simpler, but many of the things apply, back and forth. So I think that'll be just great. And I have a lot to do here to get things fully operational. I have to add a little bit to the front here, and I could do that very cheaply with materials from our local restore. And I need to get my hydraulic shop press going and all that. But one of the things I want to cover, and I'll try to do it pretty soon, is the factory method of balancing engine crankshafts. And it differs from the S&S method. And I want to point out that I was an S&S dealer for over 20 years. And I was an S&S dealer before they had a catalog. They had a price list. And I bought some of their very first crankshafts. Not crankshafts, but engine cases, and I sold some of their very early engines, which had a better balance than what they put out since, when they kind of went more into production. And another thing I want to cover too is disassembling the crankshafts without damaging them, and I think that might be helpful too. Okay, I'm going to have a look at a couple of things here, and I'll show you the progression I'm making on this K model engine that will also transfer over to the big twins. We'll be right back with that. Okay, back here, and here are the K model cases, and this is the left side with the Timken bearing. And what I gotta do, let me move this, is I'm gonna take and make an adapter for this 10-inch horizontal vertical rotary table to mount these crankcases by The Timken bearing, it'll be on here. Let me flip this around. It'll be on there like this, mounted by the Timken bearing. And there's enough room, I can rotate this around and do the cylinder, see? This may be hanging over the edge of the jig bore table. Now, I said at the factory that they they had 2 Bridgeports in the racing department, and they used rotary tables to mount the XR 750 cases just exactly like this. And I've noticed that some of the better automotive block machining equipment works the same way. It holds the engine blocks by the main bearings. And when you do that and you rotate this thing on around for the other cylinder, that way you keep your distance exact without fiddling around, because it's mounted by the main bearing. Now this rotary table is a UASA, and translated over here, it's Yowzer. These are quite expensive, but I don't know why like the Phase 2 or some of the others wouldn't be just fine also. You know, they should be fine. You know, you could check them with a square and scrape the base if you need to, but they're probably okay. I've never used a Phase 2 rotary table or anything like that. But I've had this for a very long time. And back when I got this, I think it was in the 1980s, early 1980s, this wasn't really very expensive like they are now. So I think the other ones would be fine. I don't know. I assume they would. But this is a 10-inch rotary table, and it's big enough to handle the job. But I just so what I got to do is I got to come up with, just machine some pieces, and maybe I'll go ahead and video that and get it so I can draw the cases in. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I knocked out the Morse taper center here. It was actually totally useless for anything I was doing. So I knocked it out. But if you don't want to do that, I'm sure you can adapt your rotary table, leaving that center in place if that's something that you need. Okay, I'll show you another situation here that I use for the big twin, and I'll be right back with that. Hey, how about that? Back then, John Davidson was the chairman of Harley Davidson. This is after it was bought back from AMF. And after John Davidson, it was Von Beals and who knows who else, but I don't think those guys ever rode a motorcycle. Well, anyway, back here, now here is the adapter. This fits on that rotary table too, but this is a multi-use device here. And I wanted to point out something I think I forgot that this can also be used for, is with cylinders, doing the cylinder bases on the lathe, which is ideal. But anyway, this is the big twin setup. At one time, I was doing the big twin cases on a faceplate like this, but a bigger one. And this is how I held the cases by the Timken main bearings. And I fabricated this piece here, fabricated that piece. So I'm going to unscrew this here. Long-winded fine thread. Okay, here's the Timken main bearings. So you slip the case over the main bearing like that. Then from behind, this got a race on it. The races would be in the crankcases. And that's how I and the factory racing department mounted crankcases to the rotary table. Okay? Now, this is too big of a diameter for the Sportster or the K model Sportster crankcases here. So what I'm going to do, I had pieces of this and I don't know what happened to them. So I just got to come up with a smaller situation to fit the smaller and kind of more confined situation with these cases. Mount that on the rotary table. Now, one thing I was going to show, and I kind of let's get this stuff out of there. So if I was going to do there'd be a sleeve coming out of here, and the way I mounted these on the faceplate was use clamps here and get into the fins. It does, you have to be careful not to break stuff off, but then again, things don't have to be all that tight if you're taking light cuts. So this would be how I would square up the cylinder bases. And I'm going to say, before I got a wall hopper head and a big one that I can run on the jig bore, and I'll show you the use of that anyway. So I got to make the pieces to grab the crankcases, these crankcases onto that, and I'll come up with that. Okay, now an alternate way of doing these crankcases is with a horizontal milling machine. And not everybody has a horizontal milling machine. They usually have a vertical mill, such as a Bridgeport type machine. So on the horizontal mill, I could do this very quickly, easier, by centering the crankcases on this rotary table, transferring it over to the horizontal mill here. So the table would be laying here, and I could bore those crankcases and face the cylinder mount surfaces here. But I'll go ahead and do it over here on the jig bore, which is the closest thing I got to a vertical milling machine. But you can do this on the Bridgeport as they did at the factory in the racing department. Okay, I thought I would try to clear that up, but I probably muddied it up. And I've got some interesting things coming that I'm going to show you. And part of that is crankshaft balancing, the factory method. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will be back as I progress on making the mounting parts necessary to align those K-model crankcases. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and be sure and check out my other channel that I got going again. There's some 500 videos there on machining and other things. Okay, I will be back. Bye.